regarding the trash barrel, emptying of trash barrels in public parks, and we'll handle the first issue if Mr. Labossiere is available. Thank you, Mr. Labossiere. So if you don't mind, because it's been a while, there's, other than what's on the agenda of sidewalk issues, because we're getting close to the winter, there's a few other agenda items that if you don't have answers to those, that's fine, because you know, obviously we're unprepared for it. I know some other councils may have questions regarding public services work, and if you want to get back to us on those questions, that works for us. So rather than bury the lead, the first thing I wanted to say was that I think that we as a council need better communication from DPS. And I say that in the sense that I understand that DPS has you know, some staffing issues, and that you yourself have been extremely busy with a lot on your plate. With that said, you know, I think we have different parties that we have to report to. You report to the mayor, we report to the public. Last estimate was 57,000 people, and I think that the councils here in this room can vouch to the fact that most of them contact us on a regular basis. So, you know, with that said, I understand that you're busy, and sometimes it's difficult for you to respond to the daily questions. The issue that we have is that, not that we need things done immediately or we expect a yes on every issue that we approach you with, is that sometimes we just need an answer to give to the public. And that answer may be next year, tomorrow, or next week. But regardless, you know, it's an answer that we need to bring forward. And I think we're all pretty reasonable people that you know, we can accept those answers, and we're willing to bring those answers to the residents. But if you yourself can't handle that, and I don't mean that in a detrimental way, I mean, if you are too busy to do that, if you could delegate that, answers to, you know, time frames for residents, or I was fortunate that the mayor was extremely helpful during this last year. And, you know, honestly, it's my personal opinion, I don't speak for the mayor, but I think some of the minutia I shouldn't be bothering the mayor with, and it should come from DPS. So with that said, we can move on to the next topic. So thank you. I hope you take that as a constructive criticism. So the first agenda item is sidewalks. And that, obviously this agenda was set maybe 4 months ago, so sidewalks were the issue of the day. But with that said, I still wanted to leave it there for multiple reasons. It's the #1 issue that we face on a yearly basis. So I'm going to ask you, as the DPW director, is there a plan so that, I believe the council approved an extra $50,000 this year towards sidewalk repairs through the mayor's request, and I just want to see what the plan is, because it seems like we can never catch up on the sidewalks. Do we have one, or is it just, are we addressing the list, the list that you know, I requested in this motion, or is there a list, or how are we going about addressing sidewalks systematically?
All right, you want me to be honest? There's a list. We don't ever use the list, because I get requests from the council all the time. We work just on the requests from the council.
So if a sidewalk is on a list for 4 or 5 years, and you know, a councilor didn't happen to be on the council 5 years ago to be aware of that, that goes by the wayside and doesn't take precedent?
I wish it did.
Okay, well, I guess that's a good answer. With that said, I'll move on to winter operations. How are we looking for winter operations? We at the airport are expecting a heavier than normal winter. I don't know if you've heard that, but I also know that many cities and towns are short on staff and short on contractors. How is Peabody looking?
We've contacted all of our contractors from last year. We probably have about 90% of the contractors coming back this year. So we are short a little bit. We do have contact with about another dozen new plow operators that we're trying to get on right now. So private-wise, we're looking pretty good. We're shorthanded on our own staffing right now, but we're in the process of hiring more people as we speak. So I'm optimistic. It seems like we're going to be in better shape than we anticipated and better shape than some of the surrounding area.
Thank you. My apologies to my fellow councilors. I apologize. I should have deferred to you for sidewalk issues. Council Rosignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I'm going to stick with snow plowing because that's the topic we're on. Just curious, will the council be notified when DPS is going out and the length that they're out, like they have been? Because I think that is helpful to the council, so that if we get a call from a resident saying they haven't been there or when they're coming out, we'll be able to answer those questions.
Yes, we'll continue with the same operations we've done in the past. Kevin has a group text that he sends out. I know there's some councils who don't want to be part of that, so they'll remain off that. And once the new council takes place in January, we'll switch it up and add the new parties when needed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Council Melville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can defer. I don't have a question about the snow removal. I had a question about the sidewalk issue. Do you want me to wait and just do?
No, I prefer you go back to sidewalks. That
Okay.
was my mistake. I moved on to the next item and I didn't ask.
No, no problem, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Bob, and I actually completely understand where you're coming from when the council's making suggestions, like when we make motions to repair sidewalks, and it becomes pretty commonplace. And I understand that you're triaging. Do you have any suggestions? Is there a way to, I mean, are we taking, this is like a question, I don't actually know what your suggestion would be, of like ranking, areas of concern, places that we can, because I think that if, to get to the heart of this issue, would require a policy that we're in some discipline on saying this is the standard in which we would, work on your sidewalk. Because I think, Peabody was built, much of it was built all at the same time, so much of the sidewalks are deteriorating around the same time. And, but I would I'm looking for a suggestion more than anything on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, could I just jump in real quick on a couple of things?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And yeah, it has been a struggle for, with the sidewalks, and because not only are all you as councils, which you're supposed to do, reach out regarding sidewalks and berms and other things, but I'm doing it as well. And it's one of those where, we're giving council requests from the meetings or just calls and emails to Bob or Kevin, but I'm doing the same thing. So what we typically try to do is go with those. A lot of times you're calling for people who have a disability or an older person or a younger person, and those kind of take priority over the existing list. A lot of times if it's a sidewalk, I know we just did Ellsworth Road, a number of things at Ellsworth Road, so if we go to the list and if there's a couple additional ones that have been on the list for a while, we try to add to that, so we're trying, if we need 500 Ellsworth done, then we'll see, 502 has been on the list for a while. So we try to add that in. But it is difficult, and, certainly this year, there's been another challenge in terms of personnel. Bob has really had a rough go of it. I did want to report, we did hire a new person that started last week, which is great, CDL, hoisting. We're able to, it's a Peabody resident who had been working at another neighboring town, which they're not too happy with us for taking that person, but we were able to bring somebody in. We have another one starting next Monday, and another full-time starting the following Monday. And both of those have some credentials, CDL hoisting, which is great, allows us to get them kind of up and running. We are also in the process of physicals for a couple of other people, and Bob has some more interviews scheduled. So I finally feel that people are looking to work a little bit and that we can start building that up. We've had, I think, and certainly I can't speak in detail, but we've had 5 people who have been out on long-term injuries and things that have put further strain on all of us. So I feel like things are getting a little bit better, but really this fall was a great challenge. And I feel like we got to a lot of it. We certainly didn't get to everything we needed to. Bob has some, and I'm going to turn it back over to him in a moment. I just wanted to mention about the people that we've hired, because I know you guys get questions, and I know that's going to be helpful to all of us to have some more bodies back. But Bob's had some ideas, in terms of paving and sidewalks that, he thinks would be cost-effective and would help with scheduling a little bit. He's been kind of bringing this up to me now for a couple of years. It's just been hard to really do much planning, and I wasn't sure where we were with the budget. We were able to add back, and a lot of you were advocates for this, to add back some more money for sidewalks, which was necessary after the year before when we cut it significantly. So, but Bob has some ideas in terms of paving and sidewalks that he thinks will help us. So I don't know, Bob, if you want to get into that a little bit.
As the mayor was saying, when it comes to the sidewalks, I would like to start off with higher walkable areas. I'd like to do a radius around all the schools, start with the schools, and take care of a lot of the downtown walkable areas. It seems as though we've gotten stuck on doing some neighborhoods and cul-de-sacs, and not that they're not needed, they're completely needed, but I don't think we get the most use out of doing those areas first. So over the winter, we would like to put together a policy where we start with the schools and walkable areas and downtown and more of the densely populated areas and work out from there. So that's something we're going to be working for.
Council Melville, you still have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that, Bob, because, I think it's important for me as a counselor to be able to set expectations, as, I think Councilor Turco was alluding to this as well, and to make, if we have a policy in place where you say, this is our strategy, really, it's actually a strategy more than a policy, that is, all the counselors can buy into that, and when we do get those requests that, it might be somebody that might have a route that came through their sidewalk and could be an issue, but, it's not, it might be not part of the actual strategy. We can say we're working to get to you at that point, but we have, we're taking a holistic approach, because I think doing patching up certain, piece by piece throughout the city is not going to get us where we need. I actually think it's not cost effective to the taxpayer at the end of the day. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's much easier, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, to target one, a couple of streets, do all of the sidewalks there, instead of having people go and spend time traveling between different areas that they're patching. But I would really appreciate to see something, that strategy, so that we can kind of point to it as a council or as a counselor in the future and say, this is what we're going to, this is our strategy to deal with this, because I think, it's an infrastructure issue, and we should all be, working together to get there.
Right, and this will help us be able to put out a bid package every year for a particular contractor to go and do this area around this school, or do these streets, or something to that matter. For us, especially this year, it's been tough trying to hire a contractor to do sidewalk work, because they're shorthanded, they're behind already, and trying to get on their schedule this year has been a nightmare, as our road work has had the same problem. So it's taken us a lot longer to get a lot of stuff done. So it would help us planning and getting ahead of the project.
And thank you very much, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for bringing this up. I think this is very useful for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. I just wanted to mention, I neglected to mention Councilor Sasslaw is here remotely, and Councilor Sasslaw, the clerk is watching for your hand on Zoom, if you'd like to speak. Councilor Charest.
Thank you, Chairman. Bob, we communicate quite a bit on sidewalks, and I got to tell you, I really do appreciate all the time and effort you spend on trying to adhere to some of my requests. And as always, as I've always said to you, is that I know you're having 11 counselors reaching out to you for sidewalks, and I leave it in your hands and your expertise about some sidewalks that needs to be done in a timely fashion, and others could be put off only because of where the location is. So I've always found your help in repairing a lot of the sidewalks quick and swift. And I do know that you're limited to the finances that you have that's given to you by the city, on which ones you can, or how much you can get done. And certainly with this year, with COVID, previously in this year with contractors not fulfilling maybe their bids or their our requests and getting it done in a timely fashion. I know certainly around Center School, it was that. It was a few months out. So I really do appreciate the time and effort that you've given me as a counselor to get these sidewalks done. But I do know, as I tell many of my constituents when they call up and request a sidewalk, that I am one or 11 that is yelling and screaming about a sidewalk. And we talked about implementing a program on how you look at a sidewalk that needs to be done. I remember when I first got on the council, we always talked about the book. There was a book. You get on the list. And that first year, the list was presented to me, and quite honestly, I was mortified about how long some of the streets and sidewalks was on that list. And I've always said I want to give sidewalks to people so they can shovel them and make sure that they maintain them and around the school zones and things of that nature. And again, I've said many times, sidewalks are for feet, not for tires. And that's a lot of the damage that gets done by these on the sidewalks. But so I really, even though I won't be here after January, I really hope that you implement a program. Because one of the things I get every time a constituent calls, and like you kind of alluded to, is that if I want a sidewalk done, I need to call my counselor. And I don't really believe that's accurate totally. I do believe, you do have a list, but you may not follow it as strict as the requests or the phone calls from us or the mayor's office. And I will let people know that, again, people say, well, this sidewalk down the street was repaired, and I've been asking for 2 years. And again, it may be who's requested time and time again, and if it comes from the city, request that it gets done. I do know that you probably would like to get every single sidewalk repaired as they requested to you. Right? Am I wrong there?
No, you're absolutely right.
Your job will probably be a hell of a lot easier. So I do wish that we can continue to come up with a plan to address those, and I do agree with you. Areas that's around schools or walking areas or parks and things like that certainly gets the attention. And we just need to maybe up the ante on this. And I know we're competing against cities and towns, especially this year, to get sidewalks done because everyone's pulling from the same resources. So I do, again, I just want to say thank you for all the times that you was able to get the sidewalks I requested, but I know the sidewalks that was requested by at-large councilors in the mayor's office too, that you have to adhere to. So again, that's all I have to say about sidewalks.
Thank you.
Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Labossiere. And this is probably more of a comment than it is a question. You've mentioned your ideas about this plan to me before. I'm fully supportive of that approach. I think it makes perfect sense. It sounds like the intent is to refine that this winter. I think accelerating that as much as you possibly can will pay dividends because it's, it seems like there'll be some infrastructure money making its way out of Congress, and I think once those floodgates open, it's going to get incrementally more difficult to get contractors and, going out for those bid packages that you made reference to. I see you nodding to the affirmative there, so I'll let you comment, but I think any of the prep work we do now so that we're kind of get to that shovel-ready stage is going to put us in a favorable position relative to other communities and be more nimble and move quickly if that funding comes. So if you could just comment back on that, if you kind of see it the same way.
Mr. Labossiere.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's what we're trying to do, is to get ahead of the money when it does come in. We want to have as many shovel-ready projects as we can have available. You know, trying to identify these sidewalks and having a policy, you know, hopefully over the winter, we can put out a contract that'll be similar to our paving and milling, where they're gonna come in and just do sidewalks, and we'll give them a list of areas that they'll have to do, and we'll start off, you know, right in the spring, taking care of that.
Thank you, Mr. Lavasier. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Welton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on this committee, so thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Through you to Mr. Lavasier, just following up on Councilor Melville's suggestion, I think one thing that's been helpful to me as a first-term councilor is to explain to residents that we only have X amount of streets that we can request to the mayor's office to be paved annually. And I try in Ward 1, as I know many ward councilors do, to spread it out amongst the ward. I think if we took a similar approach with sidewalks, that might be helpful, not only for us to manage expectations, but helpful for your office as well. And then build in there, obviously, the requests that, you've seen from us probably as emergency preambles with people with disabilities or, high walkable areas that have significant issues. But I think as you continue to build out that policy, if we could approach it in a similar way, I think, at least for me, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Chairman Turco. And through you, I'd like to ask, just make a comment to Mr. Lavasier. First of all, thank you. I know you and your team have been short-staffed with all the challenges with injuries and just staffing, trying to get people for positions. I want to thank you, because I know as a ward councilor, I get lots of requests, whether it be streets, signs that have been torn down or damaged. Some of them have been defaced, and certainly sidewalks. And I do want to thank you for that. In the 2 terms, you folks have been very responsive in trying to get the requests done as timely as possible. So I appreciate that. And I'll just echo fellow councilors' comments about kind of looking at revamping our sidewalk strategy as a city. I fully support that. I know that I get requests for sidewalks, and I'm looking, it's a cul-de-sac, and I have to be upfront and say that that's not a priority right now. I'm looking at, around a school, there's tree roots that have torn up, and it's 20 years, and we have to get that so that people, the elderly, the young, impaired, anyone can take care of that. But I think that is also something that we can, as we look at developing it, or you come forward with that, I think it's helpful, because I got a call today from a resident saying, someone did a sidewalk on my street, why wasn't mine done? I've been on the list for, X amount of years, and it just kind of gets out there that if they're on a list, they'll get done. And like I said, it should be a rating, if not only just the schools we talked about, the walkable areas, but looking at the actual grading of the sidewalks on whatever it is, 1 being, great condition, or 5 being it must be done right now. So that it almost sets the stage for expectations, but also we're able to manage that as ward councilors, at-large councilors, and as also with the city, because of all of us changing positions or doing other things, it carries forth, and it's no longer just being, done verbally. But I do want to thank you, and appreciate any support that we can give. We'll give you any support to in terms of revamping the sidewalk, and also, as Councilor Walton said, street strategy. But thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Sasla.
Thank you, Chairman. Bob, I just wanted to also say thank you for the last few years that you've been aboard. You've been very accommodating and taking care of my issues in my ward, whether it be sidewalks, signs, things like that. I did want to touch upon one thing that Councilor Turco did bring up earlier. I did find, though, and I don't know if it's a staffing issue inside. I know outside you had some issues with some people, but inside, what I found a little bit is, once again, having to go through the mayor to get certain things done the last year or so. I just thought that was a little bit strange. It didn't make sense to me. And it really starts with your staff answering the phone. And my concern is that it does seem to, I don't know if you're aware of it or if you've tested it all, but voicemail, we all thought it was a great invention, but I think it's come back to bite us a little bit. And when people call and they leave messages and they don't get returned within the same day or 2 days or 3 days. And I've had a little of that. And as I said, what Councilor Turco talked about, I've had to send emails to the mayor and his staff, and that's all well and good, and things get done. But I just think that there's an efficiency issue there. And as I said, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me, but I did want to comment about, the public calling directly in to be DPS and getting a live person. Are you aware of, any issues with that, or maybe, I don't want to say abusive voicemail, but are you concerned at all about people being able to talk to someone live? I think that's so important this day and age. And thank you once again.
Mr. LaBossiere.
I can tell you that we have a real problem with our phone system at DPS, and it doesn't have to do with our building itself, it has to do with Verizon's infrastructure. So every time it rains, we end up with an issue with our phone lines. Verizon's been working on it for well over a year anyways, so we're trying to get them to revamp and change out the lines coming from, it comes underground from Lakeland over to our building. So there's a serious problem with their infrastructure, so we've been working on trying to get that fixed. But we definitely have a lot of times when the phone lines go down.
Okay, and so that's the first time I've ever heard of that, and that's good to know, I guess, and you're working on it. But I would just suggest to you, Bob, that you might want to maybe just make a phone call during a normal day and just see what happens when someone calls that normal number, and how many times it goes to voicemail and how many times it gets picked up. I think that's some of the frustration I've heard over the last few years, is that no one gets back to me. It does get picked up, it goes to voicemail, and please take it where it's coming from. But you might want to just give it a shot on a non-rainy day where the phones are working. But as I said, the other situation about a problem with the phones, I've never been aware of that. And sorry to hear that. And hopefully Verizon will address it. If not, you'll have to go to another communications company. But as I said, I'm just concerned about people calling, and obviously, for lack of a better pun, when it rains, it pours. I get it. When things go bad, whether the bad weather, whether it be the rain or the wind, and you guys have done a tremendous job the last few storms. I understand that's when it does happen a lot. And maybe, as I said, I just think it's important that if you've had a bad storm the night before, when people show up at 8 or 8:30 in the morning, they start to work, that you instruct your staff, please stay by the phones and answer the phones. And I understand you can't get an answer to somebody right away, but I think that's some of the frustrations, that people just can't get through and talk to a live person to report the problem, so that can get looked at. And then, as I said, sometimes you can't address that problem at that point in time for whatever reason. But if someone will just get back to that resident, explain to them what's going on, or that you're aware that there's a drain problem and things of that nature. And lastly, I'll just say you've done a good job of, we do have a rain issue in certain places I know across my ward. There is flooding, Goodale and Lowell Street, right by Northeast North Street, there's always that drain. If you can continue to just stay on top of those things, because I think it's frustrating also when we have, unfortunately, people don't clean out the catch basins sometimes. And if that doesn't happen, I think it's incumbent upon your staff to say, okay, here's the list. We know these are a dozen places across the city. If it's going to pour out tonight, you've got to make sure that these 12 to 14 places get cleaned out, because I think that's another thing that frustrates the residents. They're like, how come it's not cleaned out? They know it's going to flood every time. As I said, I apologize that people don't clean out the catch basins sometimes, but some of them aren't close to houses, and they're not going to do it. But as I said, I appreciate everything you've helped me with over my tenure, and wish you the best. And as I said, please just take those as constructive criticism that I can pass on to you. And thank you very much for all your help.
Thank you, Councilor. I think everybody's addressed sidewalks. Councilor Manning Martin, before I move on to snow removal, any questions on sidewalk issues throughout the city? Move on to back to snow removal. Any councilors, Councilor Charest on snow removal?
Thank you. Bob, I'm not sure of which councilor, it might have been Melville, who spoke about, or maybe Rosenall, I forget which one, sorry. They talked about the messages that go out from usually Kevin Kelly to us, to some of the councilors who do wish to receive them. I'll tell you right now, continue that. That is a huge, huge benefit for, certainly, for myself, that we can report out to when people do call and say, what's going on and stuff, and even for our own idea of how the storm is being taken care of. And I know you're the best one when we're thinking, send out the plows, and you're doing the sand and salting first, because you've been told that snow is not going to come, and this is going to be freezing rain. it really is benefit for us. So I will say thank you for doing that, and my recommendation is continue. And I believe in the years past, you had a portal that people could call in and report in any area that is maybe been missed by a private contractor. Is that something you're going to continue to do also?
Yeah, that comes into our dispatch phone line, so yes.
And again, that is helpful too, because sometimes we, as counselors, are not home to get that call from somebody who's saying that their area is missed, that they can directly go right to the dispatcher. So you're not getting 5 calls from counselors and numerous other people that you know that, hey, well, listen, we're going to have a truck up there. And it can be addressed that area and another area too. So, and I do know it's very difficult to have good private contractors out there plowing. I did see last year, Goodwin was being highly rated by the neighborhood he was plowing. So if you want to hear the good things, and that's one that I did hear. And I know it's going to probably be difficult again to get good plow people, not only for our city, too on. How many people on from the city do we have plowing during a regular storm?
City workers? You put me on the spot. We have probably 20, 22.
And is that full capacity, or are we down people?
This year, we're down. I'm not sure what you were asking, but this year, we don't have a full complement yet. We're in the middle of hiring, so we hope to. I don't have every one of our truck filled for this winter season, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm curious on our own plow people, city workers.
Right.
That I know we had openings throughout the past years.
Yep.
And I'm curious just on a number. I know you can say like 75%, but sometimes it's helpful for the residents to hear that we have 15 city workers working the plows for the entire city, and they can kind of get the idea, like, that's a lot. That's a lot of area for 15 people to manage during a regular storm, if that's the number.
Yeah, but we have a lot more than 50. I mean, we have over 100 pieces of equipment out during a storm that we have to oversee. So probably have 22 of our own pieces of equipment, plus then we're trying to get the 4 sidewalk tractors filled with people so that we can send those out too before the end of the storm, so that we can get ahead of it. That's the plan. So hopefully when we get everybody hired, that's what we'll be able to do.
Any other questions on snow removal? Anybody? Councilman Martin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Labossiere, was it just in the newspaper just today, the cost that cities and towns are struggling to find plow drivers, and the cost is like upwards of $300 an hour? The supply and demand, there just aren't enough drivers to go around. Is that something that's going to affect us?
So I haven't seen $300 advertised. I've seen 200, from 155 to 200, but those are, it's a little misleading. It doesn't tell you what piece of equipment that's being charged off at that price. So if you have we have some rentals that we have, a sander with wing plows and a front plow. Those are generally more money. Those go up to that type of cost. But general plows that we have are not near that.
And do you think we will be affected by a shortage of plow drivers? That seems to be a concern out there in other cities and towns. Again, I just read it in the paper today.
We seem to be sitting pretty well. We've called a lot of our contractors from last year. There's a good percentage of them coming back this year, and we have a couple of new ones that we've also brought on. So it's not looking as bad as we thought it was going to look. So I think we're sitting a little bit better than a lot of the surrounding communities.
budget-wise, you think you'll be able to stay within what has been budgeted? Again, given the increase in the supply and demand on finances.
That really just depends on what we get for storms. That usually, you know, if we get a lot of storms this year, then it goes out the window pretty quick. I haven't seen all the prices yet from purchasing on what all the plows are going to be costing us, but I don't think it's going to be outrageous for us.
Okay, if at some point, if you could report back sooner rather than later, if you feel that these costs and the winter have triggered a need for an increase in the plowing budget, could you come to us as soon as possible?
Sure. Once I get all the contracts in, we'll set up a little spreadsheet of what it was last year versus this year, and give you an idea of what the difference will be.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Any other questions on snow removal? Thank you. Bob, but just in regards to the capital budget, I believe we approved, was it 2 internationals, 2 street trucks? Have we received those? And if we haven't, do you have any idea when we'll receive them?
So all the vehicles have been ordered. I'm hoping to get them for next year's winter season. It's 18 months out from the time we ordered.
Thank you. Okay, I think we'll close the subject of snow removal. Councilor Rossignol, you had mentioned you might have another question. Is that any other subject that we'd like to address with Mr. Labossiere before I move to Parks and Recreation? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Labossiere.
Thank you all.
And the next motion was made by Councilor Manning Martin. It was just in regards to scheduling of trash removal from the public parks, and as to whether we maybe needed to increase that frequency. With that, I'll defer to Councilor Manning Martin, and Parks Director Jen Davis is remotely with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't really have anything other to add than what you've already introduced, that we could talk about how we are addressing the trash pickup at parks when they're full and we're not able to pick them up, just what the frequency is. If you could explain, Ms. Davis, if you could explain if certain parks are more active, are they picked up at a more frequent schedule? And if I think Public Works assists the rec department as well sometimes when needed. So if you just explain to us how it works and see if we can think of other ways to address a problem, because we did have some problem park areas over the summer. So if you could just fill us in on how it works, that would be great. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you, everybody, for having me. Sorry I'm remote, but we basically have a 3-day-a-week schedule. Knowing that we didn't have any part-time staff really this year, it was very difficult to schedule it with our full-time staff. So we obviously can always do better, but hopefully this next summer, spring, summer, we will have some part-time staff on board. We only had one person this past year, and he only worked for 6 weeks. Otherwise, we relied on the full-time staff, which is only 3 people. And then thankfully, Bob and the DPS staff stepped in when necessary if we were really full or couldn't get to something. We do have about 45 locations that the truck goes to. They start in the West Peabody area, and then they work their way down the list. If they're not super full, then they leave them and try to go get the full ones, because that's always a priority. We realized that Radden had some issues, and I believe it was in August when this all kind of came about. That was when we lost a part-time person, and that park had apparently had an event. There were extra barrels, and they kind of got moved all over the place. So one got missed, but we did get to it as soon as we knew about it. And we try to do Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, with Tuesdays and Thursdays being our backup if we couldn't get to it the next day. So that's pretty much the plan. We still do have the 50-gallon drums as our barrels. And we did look into MassCore. They have their list of picnic tables and benches and barrels and all sorts of things. And a 32-gallon trash can that's kind of fluted. It has a lid with a hole in the very top of it. I don't know if you can see this. If you guys see the screen, that right there is about $630 per one, and it has a liner. So slowly, I think we really need to replace some of our barrels, not all of them, because when we have events, we need to be able to move these around. These ones won't be able to get moved around. So that's kind of in our budgets as I move forward with the budgets, is trying to add a few to each, excuse me, add a few every year and include that in our budget, because it's going to cost a bit to do 40. If we did one at every single location, that's almost $30,000 just in one trash can at each location. So I don't know if we want to do that or not, but that's kind of what we're thinking. I'm really hoping that we can get staff for next year. Get staff. I would love to have a part-time year-round staff that could just do trash. That would be very helpful. So we do have some ideas, but it's just putting them together and making them come to fruition.
Council Miniman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Davis, it was surprising to me that the rec department actually picks up its own trash, because when I receive calls from my constituents on this, I automatically called Mr. Labossiere. So that I learned that the rec department is responsible for it, which I was surprised. I would just kind of assumed that the trash contract would handle that. So what type of truck do you have for the rec department that handles picking up all that trash?
So a few years ago, we got a brand new trash truck. I want to say 5 years ago. The city used to have, our department used to have a smaller trash dump truck, but apparently that has kind of not been repaired, not repairable. When we got our new one, we handed it down, and that was kind of the backup, and that apparently is out of service at this point. So the city is down to one truck, and it is a trash truck specifically for trash. DPW uses it and Parks and Rec uses it on a regular basis. And that, I mean, we could have one person just driving around in that truck all day, every day. That would help. But that, yeah, we have one truck.
Councilman Iman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's just a strange concept for me that the rec department would be emptying trash. So I'm glad that I learned that, because I think that might be something we can look into in future contracts with JRM. It just seems very strange that that's a responsibility that goes to the rec department. So I'm glad I learned that. And this discussion is very timely. Thank you for letting us know that you're looking into newer, larger trash barrels for our parks. That's very important. So heading into budget season, that's good for us to know. And also, I kind of wanted to just throw this out there to my colleagues and to you, and maybe Mr. Labossiere, if he's still here, I'm not quite sure. Many years ago, we were having issues with potholes, and from discussions, the idea of having the Pothole Hotline came up, so that when folks saw a pothole, they could either, it was either first, I think it originally started through Facebook, and then we put a pothole kind of hotline on the website. So given the issue with rats and public health and public safety with respect to trash and rats, and certainly in the park area where we have children, do you think there's any way we could implement that idea with, because it's simply, when residents see the trash overflowing, they'll call a counselor. I got a bunch of calls this summer. They'll call a counselor, and then the counselor will call, well, I called Mr. Labossiere and then learned that I needed to call you. Do you think that we could implement some sort of hotline for the trash receptacles to be picked up? Because if like you said, if we missed one and missed it for like 3 weeks, that's a lot of time for exposed trash to kind of be in like, I think it was Radden Road Park, and neighbors were calling on it. Do you think that's something that we could implement to kind of expedite the complaint, and also in order to expedite you or whomever is responsible to pick it up, to be alerted and cut out all the middlemen and women? Like some sort of hotline through, much like the Pothole Hotline. What are your thoughts on that? And I'd like my colleagues' thoughts on that as well.
We do have an extra phone line that we can just make as our line for trees and it's generally tree calls. We tell people to call this specific line for tree calls, but they generally just call us. But we could make this a general line, and then all of my staff have access to that, and then those messages get dispersed to the appropriate person. But it is something we could look into.
Thank you. Councilman, do you mind deferring to the mayor for one moment?
Oh, sure. That completes all of my concerns and questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Mayor.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two excellent topics. Want to thank you for this discussion. A lot of things coming up here in the winter, and it's always good to kind of rehash what we did in the past and see where we can improve. So I just thought, Council, I just wanted to speak. I thought that was an excellent idea. The Pothole Hotline has worked really well for us, and I think it's helped us tremendously in being more attentive. And I see this happening for this particular area as well. Because, like you stated, Radden Road has been an issue for us. Some of our bike path barrels have been a problem for us, a couple of other parks. So I think this could work very well for us, too. And Councilor Sasslaw, I touched on it in the earlier topic, but I think he's correct. We've also been having some discussion about a blocked storm drain hotline as well. Because I've seen the success with the pothole one, and I think that can be expanded into other areas. So, yeah, let us work on that, Council, but I think that's a great suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Trust, you're up. I just wanted to let you know that we're about 10 minutes over time on the meeting, so not to rush you. I just wanted to let you know that. Council Trust.
I'll talk real fast, Chairman. Ms. Davis, thank you for being here. And on the trash at the parks and things of that nature, right? And you have the the barrels, large barrels that tend to get overfilled. And as you can say, you said you have 45 different locations that you need to get to get them. And I know on certain days, perhaps Fridays, when they have pizza days at the camps, that they fill up quite quickly. So would it be something you want to think about of having, you see those smaller dumpsters that's on wheels, right? Essentially located near a more busier park, that could be used, and maybe contracted with a trash pickup with JRM or going in the future, whoever it is. Because it just seems that those barrels can get filled very, very quickly, and especially if they're not compacted down. And maybe the counselors at that camps could utilize some of those larger containers for trash to fill in, especially on days that would not be able to be picked up every day. Is that a thought that you thought about at all?
We could look into it. My only concern is we do have a big issue with residents putting their personal trash into the barrels, and that's what's clogging it up more. As far as the pizza stuff, I've already talked to my staff about that. That shouldn't be happening any longer, because I warned them about that. They can't fill it up before they leave, so they have to dispose of them in a different manner. But as far as like the bike paths, we are finding a lot of people putting their household trash in there, not just your white trash bag, but your dish drain sink and your just all sorts of things, clothes and all sorts of things you can't imagine. So I'd just be a little leery about the dumpster. We'd have to make sure there'd be locks in place. But it's not something that it's not out of the realm of possibility, especially for the more popular active parks, where we would just get to dump into that and then have talk to JRM or whoever the hauler would be if we were to use the dumpsters. Not something we couldn't think about.
Sure, yeah, that's what I'm not thinking about the bike paths or saying, but areas that a lead counselor could have a key to the chain or lock that's on that particular larger dumpster, so residents aren't using it for their personal use. Just because I know you have limited barrels, and some of the barrels are not in great shape anyways, that could be utilized in multiple days, so you wouldn't have to be driving. And I do know we have some private camps that utilizes our schools and playgrounds and area for their facilities. And are they charged a trash fee at all? I'm sure they use those barrels too. I'm sorry. I'm sure they use those barrels.
If it's a private camp. If it's a private camp, licensed camp that's not run through the department, they're supposed to be getting a permit to use the fields. I know, like, this year FKO has their summer program at the middle school, and they just walk up. I don't charge them because I consider that more of a school program. But you know, a 1 week sports camps, you know, private group that comes in, yes, they're supposed to get a permit, and that goes towards part of those fees.
Yeah, because on the idea of like the beaches, you know, carry in, carry out type of thought process. So that's all I wanted to talk about was the private campuses like FKO or other ones like that who utilizes both schools, playgrounds, areas that we may have rec departments there also operating at the same time. And a lot of times that the trash can say, oh, it's from the rec department and not an outside group that's using it too, that really want to emphasize of picking up the trash and not overdoing the barrels. Thank you.
Councilor Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep it very brief. I just wanted to make a suggestion. I know you'd mentioned, Ms. Davis, the cans are about $600 a piece. I would actually recommend paying, you know, upwards of $1,000 for the big belly solar powered, you know, contraptions that they have. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, I think that'll help to mitigate some of the challenges we have quite a bit more. And, you know, I would maybe make the suggestion, obviously we can talk about this later, but perhaps expanding the Keep Peabody Beautiful initiatives that we have, where maybe we can look to some private businesses in the city that might supplement some of the cost difference that would be there. But I think to spend $600 for a trash can that's, you know, going to be in one location, but it is no larger capacity than, you know, a household trash can, really doesn't make that much sense. And if we're going to do it right and try to address it, I think, you know, we're going to have to spend a little bit more money. Obviously, you don't want to eat up your entire budget on trash cans. I totally get that, but maybe there's a creative way we can look at getting what we need instead of just piecemealing this together. Thanks.
Yeah. To your point, they do have 55-gallon drum barrels as well, but they run about $850 a piece. As far as big bellies go, the system has changed compared to what we have now within the city. So I have investigated that a while ago, but the way they operate and the way the contracts are set up is completely different. We don't buy the big belly outright anymore. You pay for the service, and I wanted to say, the last time I looked anyway, it was about $3,000 for a barrel, and you paid for all the bells and whistles of it. And but it didn't seem conducive. But not to say that could have changed by now. That was several years ago when the South Peabody Trail got built. So I could look into big bellies again.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. I appreciate your time. Have a great evening. Any other questions from councils before motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Peabody City Council Finance Committee meeting. Present for the committee tonight are Councilors Gould, Manning Martin, Rosignol, Turco, and myself, Council McGann, as chair. All other councilors are present as well. We have 6 items on the agenda tonight. I am going to, if there's no objection, take the last item, item F, out of order, and that is the bond order for the Welsh School renovation project, $29,973,821. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to you. Good evening to all councilors. Hope everybody's doing well. Big day today. We're here on the seeking approval for a bond order for the Weld School renovation project. I think all of you are very familiar with the Weld School and is what has brought us here today. Just to very briefly recap, we did submit to the Mass School Building Authority a couple of years ago seeking approval. At the time, we were looking at an accelerated repair project. There are 2 types of projects that can be applied for with the MSBA. Accelerated repair is for roofs, windows, boilers, things of that nature. And the core program is for new school or major renovation. So we initially applied for an accelerated repair. At that time, we applied also for the center school and for our high school. We had representatives, a large group from the MSBA come to take a tour and review the Weld School and the center school. At that time, they felt that the Weld School was the project that they wanted to partner with us on, and they felt that we needed more than just windows and some internal systems that we needed to really review that school, look at the needs of the school, and make it a bigger project. So we were actually, even though we applied for an accelerated repair project, we were actually approved into the core program. It's been a great deal of planning and work that has been done over the last couple of years to bring us to this point, working step by step with the MSBA. We have an outstanding team, which I'll introduce in a moment, but we're here today to seek approval for that bond request. But for the school, we were looking at new HVAC system, new windows, new furnishing, the very latest equipment and technology, and a reconfiguration of the educational space. And we feel that this work that will be taking place at the Weld School will set up that Weld School for 30, 40, 50 years for generations to come. And it's a very exciting investment and a project that's overdue for the Weld School in that community. We've been very fortunate to have an outstanding team. They're joining us, a number of people on Zoom today. But first, I wanted to welcome and mention that our superintendent is here today, Josh Fadala, and our school committee member, Beverly Griffin Dunn, who is the school building committee chair, like she was with the Higgins Middle School, and she knows this stuff inside and out and has been a great resource. We have, as I mentioned, an excellent team. From our Dorr and Whittier, we have Michael Burton and Christina Delangelo. They have been working with us step by step. Donna Danisco from Danisco Design, that's our design team. They were with us when we did the Higgins Middle School and did an outstanding job. Very happy to have Donna and her team with us again. And also Consigli. We have Todd McCabe from Consigli. Consigli was the lowest bidder, and we were very pleased that they were the group that was approved for this project. So a great deal of time has gone into that with the schematic design and work. I wanted to also recognize and thank Councilor Pete McGinn, Councilor Ryan Melville, as well as school committee member Jared Hockman, along with Beverly. They've been attending many meetings over the last couple of years working on this project, and their input has been invaluable. So we are all here today, as well as our finance chair, Michael Gingras, to help and answer any questions. Certainly we can get into this in great detail, but I thought maybe the best way would just be to turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, and for council questions. And this is seeking $29,973,821, and as with past projects, we need to approve all of that money. However, we are very fortunate we'll be receiving 63.33% reimbursement. This project would end up costing us about a little over $12 million, or coming up on $12.5 million. So the state would be, the MSBA would be providing $18 million. Is my math right? $16 million, almost $18 million, which obviously allows us to do this project. So, but with the vote would be for that full amount, again, the reimbursement would come to us, and our cost would be about 12 and some change. Mr. Chairman, happy to answer questions. The team would probably be even better able to, but happy to be here to take this next step.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Questions from the committee? Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, this is wonderful news. The percentage of reimbursement has increased. Is that because things have changed with the state, or do we qualify at a different level now? Because at Higgins, I'm sorry, at Higgins we were like 56, 57%.
Yep, good memory. We were at 56.13% for the middle school. And yeah, we're looking at 63.33%. I think that there has been some changes, but I think through our team we've been able to qualify for some additional points, being a green project, maintenance, some other things that I know we've been working on. Certainly, Mr. Burton probably would be able to add greater detail to that, but we have been able to receive additional points because of the project and what we've been able to do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No further questions, Mr. Council.
Mr. Burton, would you like to add a little additional explanation on the reimbursement percentage?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, members of the committee. One of the larger changes that may have happened since the Higgins project is the MSBA has increased their cap in construction cost per square foot, which is probably one of the largest contributing factors. And as the mayor said, even though this is a renovation project, we're qualifying for the LEED credits, which is another 2%. And those are two of the main contributing factors.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Other questions? Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor. Obviously, a project of this magnitude is not going to be done all at once. I'm assuming it's going to be phased in. Can we just have a rough guideline of how that phase is going to continue, how that's going to be implemented, and what will happen with the students as far as where they'll be going during this process?
Thank you, and that's going to be a major challenge. This is going to be a significant project that we're going to, is going to impact the Weld School community for a couple of construction cycles, we figure. I know Superintendent Vidal has been working on that at great length, and Dr. Vidal, maybe you can mention a little bit about some of your plans.
Dr. Vidal.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for having us here and supporting this project. So this is going to be an occupied site, and so there'll be a phased-in project beginning, breaking ground hopefully late spring, early summer, going throughout the summer. We're looking at having 8 classrooms at a time being vacant, so we're looking to relocate the current 3rd and 4th graders. Will be relocated to other elementary schools. We've reached out to every family and gotten their first choice, and we're working with them. They'll have a moving on ceremony this year, and they'll move on from their elementary school, move into another elementary school. Many of them will go to area schools that we have additional space in, and we've worked that out, and we're finalizing those numbers now. And then the first year of construction, which will be next school year, it'll be a K-3 school. The following year, we'll welcome another kindergarten class in. It'll be a K-4 school, and then after the 2-year project is complete, we'll go back to the K-5. So we've worked with every family, and we're making sure we have transportation, and we're meeting all of their needs that way.
Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm assuming there's going to be some additional busing for students going to whatever school they need to attend. Is that included in this dollar amount as well?
No. No. So we'll work that out through our school budget. So we'll work out where the kids are going, what we need for transportation. That'll all be done through our school budget, and if we need to use our ESSER funds, we'll be able to do that. But we can certainly talk about that through our budget process.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Council Rosano. Council Melville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a couple of comments. This project and the discussions regarding it started, I believe, in December of 2018. It's been, I want to say, first of all, how professional that the group that was brought in to work with the city has been with this project. We've had multiple public hearings. They're on YouTube, so anybody watching at home that wants to see what the design looks like, it looks fantastic. From the get-go, this project team targeted to ensure that they stretched every dollar. So part of the reason why we're going to be having to move around some classes is because instead of buying or renting portable classrooms, that money is being put back into the school so that we're going to get a better return on our investment over a longer period of time. I also want to thank everybody that works for the city that's been involved in this. The professionalism, I think, has been top-notch, and it gives me great hope for future projects and what we can get out of those. It's going to be transformative to that neighborhood, as somebody that lives in that neighborhood. It will be difficult for a couple of years, but this is a fantastic project, and I think it's a real it's going to be something that the city can point at and say, we don't just build schools and wait and do nothing with them for 50 years and have to rebuild them. We renovate them. We make them modern, and we give a great education environment. And it's something to be proud of, and I'm in full support of this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Melville. Other members of the committee? Other councilors? Seeing none, I just add a few of my own comments. You know, this, if you heard from the mayor and Councilor Melville a moment ago, this is a really important project for the city and for Ward 2. These upgrades are going to improve the educational experience for our students and extend the useful life of this building for 50 years, minimally. Again, as the mayor mentioned, and a couple of times, serving with Councilor Melville and many others very committed to this project, we've been able to track this project as members of the Weld School Building Committee. We've been meeting on this since early 2019. I'd really like to publicly thank school committee person Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn for her leadership through this process. It's been remarkable, and to use the same term as Councilor Melville, very professionally handled, and the team that's been assembled meets that standard. So, although we have a long way to go in this process, I'm pleased with where we are at this moment in time, and very excited that we've reached this milestone. So I plan to enthusiastically support this bond order. And with that, the will of the committee, Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Make a motion to approve the bond order for the Welch School renovation project in the amount of $2,973,821. Be it ordered by the City Council of the City of Peabody that the City of Peabody appropriate the amount of $29,973,821 for the purpose of paying the costs of the additional and renovation project to the existing William A. Welch School located at 50 Swampscott Ave, Peabody, Mass., including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, and for which school facilities shall have an anticipated useful life as an educational facility for the instruction of school children for at least 50 years, and for which the City of Peabody may be eligible for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Said amount to be expended over the direction of the City of Peabody's Welch Elementary School Building Committee. To meet this appropriation, the city treasurer is authorized to borrow said amount under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, that any premises received upon the sale of any bond or note may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs in a like amount. The City of Peabody acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need, as determined by the MSBA, and any project cost the City of Peabody incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be sole responsibility of the City of Peabody, provided further that any grant the City of Peabody may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not be exceeded or lesser of 163 3/3% of approval project's cost as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, and that the amount of borrowing authority pursuant to the vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth by the project funding agreement that may be executed between the City of Peabody and the MSBA, and that this order shall be adopted as advertised and read. So moved.
Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor Rossignol, and that's going to be a co-motion with myself. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on, item A, transfer of funds, CPC Riverwalk Canal Wall, $359,950. Mr. Jingras.
Yeah, this first transfer is for request to transfer from open space for 100% design of the North River Canal Wall Rehab Project. And we have Brendan and Kurt here if there's further explanation needed.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, what's the will of the committee? Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm ready to make a motion if you're, so be it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to transfer from account number 270-0000-33021, CPC Open Space in the amount of $359,950, to account number 270-1811-58562, 202200-0388, categorized as CPC Riverwalk Canal Wall in the amount of $359,950. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion by Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Manning Martin. Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Moving on, item B, transfer funds, CPC Bikeway Independence Greenway Extension Project, $113,794.75. Mr. Jingras.
Thank you. This is the second part of a authorization that was voted last year, and this would be to continue the project on the Independent Greenway design.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Gould.
I'd like to make a motion to transfer from account number 270-0000-33021, categorized as CPC Open Space Fund Balance in the amount of $113,794.75, to account number 270-1811-58562, 2018-000350, categorized as CPC Bikeway Independence Greenway Extension Project, again in the amount of $113,794.75. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Yes. Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda, transfer of funds, Community Preservation Act Administration, $10,000. Mr. Jingras.
This is an annual transfer that we make to fund the administrative costs of the Community Preservation Committee.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Make a motion, please, to transfer from account number 270-0000-33011, Community Preservation Act unreserved fund balance in the amount of $10,000, to account number 270-0000-33024, account Community Preservation Act Administration, again in the amount of $10,000. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors heard the motion for Council Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda, transfer funds, Community Preservation Act, open space, $300,000. Mr. Gingras.
This transfer and the next one are to fund open space, the open space account. This one will take it from our unreserved fund balance, $300,000, and apply money to the open space account to actually fund the projects that we've voted for prior.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, Council Gould.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to transfer from account number 270-0000-33011, Community Preservation Act unreserved fund balance in the amount of $300,000, to account number 270-0000-33021, Community Preservation Act open space, again in the amount of $300,000. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Gould. You heard the motion from Council Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin, Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Last item on the agenda, transfer of funds various. Mr. Gingras.
This next series of transfers are statutory transfers that we do every year to fund various accounts of the community preservation, historic preservation, community housing, and open space.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to transfer from account number 270-0000-33011, Community Preservation Funds unreserved, in the amount of $447,083.64, in transfer to three different accounts: 270-0000-33022, Historical Preservation Reserve Fund in the amount of $149,027.88. Also, to account number 270-0000-33023, the Community Housing Reserve Fund in the amount of $149,027.88. In third, to the account number 270-0000-33021, Open Space Reserve Fund, again in the amount of $149,027.88. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Gould. Could you add the remainder?
Sorry, I thought we'd do those three. Okay. Also transfer from account number 270-0000-33011, Community Preservation Fund unreserved, the amount of $223,541.82, split into three different categories. Account number 270-0000-33021, Open Space Reserve Fund in the amount of $149,027.88. Also, account number 270-0000-33022, Historic Preservation Reserve Fund in the amount of $37,256.97. And third, account number 270-0000-33023, Community Housing Reserve Fund in the amount of $37,256.97. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion from Council Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin, Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Peabody City Council. The City Council will convene on Tuesday, November 9th, 2021, to hold a regular meeting at 7:30 for the purpose of discussing any and all business, including both in-person participation and remote participation, in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws and pursuant to the Act, extending certain COVID-19 measures with provisions relating to open meeting law. This meeting of the City Council will be conducted via in-person participation as well as by remote participation. Real-time public comment during public hearings can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom meeting platform for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make a comment or question to the chair via the audio option. This meeting is being televised live by Peabody Access Television on Comcast Channel 9, as well as streaming on PAT's Facebook and YouTube platforms. This meeting is being recorded by our City Council stenographer. Tonight, we have one councilor participating remotely, which is Joel Sasslaw. All other councilors are in attendance. Let us all please rise for a moment of silence. Would you now please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? You've heard the motion by Councilor Gould. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charist.
Yes.
McGinn. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
The next item on our agenda is hearings. 4A, we have a petition from PMLP to locate a new pole on Pulaski Street. The clerk will please read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday evening, November 9th, 2021, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on petition 20-128 submitted by the Peabody Municipal Light Plant, 201 Warren Street Extension, Peabody, Mass., requesting to locate a new pole approximately 70 feet from existing pole number 27 Pulaski Street, across the street to the left of the Roadhouse Pub parking lot. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Zoom information will not be available until the Friday before the meeting. Peabody City Council, Councilor Mark J. O'Neill, City Council President.
Well, thank you. Would the applicant please come to the podium and state their full name and address for the record and give us a brief summary of this request?
Thank you, councilors. My name is Brian Abkunis. I'm the Associate Electrical Engineer at the Peabody Municipal Light Plant, 201 Warren Street Extension in Peabody. I'm here before the City Council for petition 4A, where we're looking to locate a new pole, like was just mentioned, approximately 70 feet from the existing pole, 27 on Pulaski Street. We are looking to locate that pole and that location related to the agreement that was signed with Verizon and Peabody Light Plant and the city councilors a couple years ago regarding small cell antenna locations. There are 14 locations that were agreed to in that document that we all agreed on, and 13 out of the 14 were either existing poles or poles on Mass Highway right-of-way where we didn't need to come and get approval from the city council. This is the one and only location that we needed to come here and seek that approval, which is why we're here tonight. We did discuss earlier this year about possibly relocating that pole to a different location in that area, but it was determined due to the topography and the trees of the area that the pole needs to go in this location to meet Verizon's needs. And it's for those reasons why we're here with that request tonight. We also have some folks here from Verizon as well, which may be able to help me if needed, if there are any questions on this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please come to the podium. Are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Please come to the podium. Are there any members of the general public on Zoom who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Please raise your hand in the application. Once again, are there any members of the general public on the Zoom application who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Please raise your hand. Seeing no one on Zoom, are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition of this application at this time? Once again, other members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition of this application, please come to the podium. Are there any members of the general public who'd like, on Zoom application, who'd like to speak in opposition at this time? Seeing no one on the Zoom application, Councilor Mitsoulas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is pretty simple. We all know what you want, and there's no one here to oppose it. And we all know what the need of that pole is for. So myself, I have no questions on this. I've been to the site. I've met with the electric light plant. I know where it's going. There is nobody opposed to it. Like I said, it's pretty simple. I'll leave it to the council if they have any questions.
Thank you, Councilor Mitsoulas. Councilor Manning Martin and then Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just out of curiosity, what happens with the existing pole that's there now? Does it get removed?
This is actually a brand-new location, Counselor. There was no suitable pole in the area, which is why we're locating a brand-new pole in this location.
Okay, I guess I just got confused where it says approximately 70 feet from existing pole.
Well, that's just to
27.
kind of show you where, like, there's a drawing a few pages down that shows you this pole's going 70 feet from that pole over there. That's all it means.
So pole 27 is still in use?
That's correct, yes.
Very good, thank you very
Yep.
much.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin, Councilor Gould, and then Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Brian. Brian, can you tell me, is Verizon using it, just to refresh our memories, is this for the canisters that are going at the top of the poles?
That's correct. That's the only reason this pole is going in, to support Verizon's small cell antenna equipment.
Okay. And will that provide better service for in the immediate area, or how?
I would think so. That's the intention of these.
Can we ask that, because
Oh, of course.
Could you please state your name and address for the record? Thank you.
Sure. John Weaver. John Weaver. I am outside counsel for Verizon, 300 Trade Center, Woburn, with McLean Middleton. So the small cells provide, the rule of thumb is that small cells provide coverage for about 1/8 of a mile around the small cell. Typically, if there are buildings or trees, as is the case here, that will mute the effect in those directions. So really, we're talking about either direction for about 1/8 of a mile down Pulaski Street. That might provide some relief for other antennas that are servicing Pulaski Street right now, which would clear up clear up coverage for other areas, but the direct coverage will be applied for about 1/8 of a mile either side on Pulaski Street.
Thank you, sir. That's important to people that are home listening, so thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Turco?
Thank you. Well, while I have you up there, it was actually a Verizon question, so it's fortunate that you're there. These are still 4G. We haven't moved to 5G in any way, shape, or form. All the 14 poles are still 4G
That's my
poles?
understanding, yes.
Thank you very much, that's all.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Any other councilors want to speak at this time? Have any questions? Seeing none, Councilor Mitsoulas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing, please.
You've heard the motion. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Mitsoulas?
I'd like to, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve petition for Peabody Municipal Light Plan 201 Warren Street Extension, petition 20-128, to relocate a new pole approximately 70 feet from the existing pole number 27, Pulaski Street, across the street to the left of the Roadhouse Pub parking lot. So moved, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You've heard the motion by Council Matsoulis. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Minnie Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charist.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. Next agenda item is hearing 4B, which is a request to transfer a Class 2 motor vehicle license. The clerk will please read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday evening, November 9th, 2021, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Edson Texera, 174 Pine Street, Danvers, Mass., requesting the transfer of a Class 2 motor vehicle license from Malia Towing, Inc. for property to continue to operate at 163 Washington Street, Peabody, Mass. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage, or contact the City Clerk's office. Zoom information will not be available until the Friday before the meeting. Peabody City Council, Councilor Mark J. O'Neill, City Council President.
Thank you. Will the applicant or the representative please come to the podium and state their full name and address for the record and give us an overview of this?
Good night, everyone. My name is Edson Texera. I'm living at 174 Pine Street in Danvers. And what I need to say over here, okay, we're going to apply to new license to the 161 Washington Street in Peabody.
Fair enough, thank you. Are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Please come to the podium. Is there anyone on the Zoom application who'd like to speak in favor of this application? There's no one on the Zoom application, so we'll now ask, are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition of this application? Once again, are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition of this application? Moving to the Zoom platform. Clerk is reminding me that no one's on the Zoom platform, but I figured I would ask. Seeing no one, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've spoken in advance here to the applicant, Mr. Texera. He's relocating his business from Chelsea, so
Yes.
looking forward to welcoming him here in Peabody. Councilors are familiar with this location. This is Malia Towing at the corner of Washington and Foster Street. The area is deceptive. There's quite a bit of space in behind the building, and that's where the cars that's where the existing license contemplates the cars are, and that's where the cars will be. The front will be for customer parking and employees. I'm supportive of the application, and at this time, I would defer to other councilors.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Do any councilors have any comments or questions at this time? Councilor Gould?
I have no questions. I'd just like to acknowledge Councilor Malia. Hello, Councilor Malia. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Minnie Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no objection to this transfer. I just had one question, if I may, through you to the city clerk. On this license, Allison, on the bottom it says this license must be posted in a conspicuous place upon the premises at all times. Didn't we change that to be in the window, facing out? Isn't that old language?
This is the actual license, but we also provide a placard, and that placard is colored, and it's on the window.
So we have language for the placard, but not for the license? We never changed it on the license?
I don't believe so. I mean, this will be in the wall inside, but the placard's got to be in the window showing
Okay.
how many vehicles.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman Martin. Any other councilors that would like to speak at this time? Seeing no one, Councilman McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
You've heard the motion from Councilman McGinn. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the application from Edson Texera, 174 Pine Street, Danvers, Mass., requesting the transfer of a Class 2 motor vehicle license from Malia Towing Incorporated for property to continue to operate at 161 and 163 Washington Street, Peabody, Mass., with the same restrictions, which are limit of 25 unregistered motor vehicles on the premises at any one time for sale or not for sale, sold or not sold, or in for repair. A fence shall be maintained on the property line at all times. All lighting shall be directed on the lot at all times. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is reports of committees. I'll now ask Chairman Turco, would you please give your report from this evening's meeting of the Public Services Committee?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, we held a meeting of the Public Services Subcommittee. Present for the subcommittee were Councilor O'Neill for Councilor Mitsoulas, Councilor Rosenthal for Councilor Gould, Councilor Melville, Councilor Charest, and myself as chair. By the end of the meeting, all councilors were present, and there were no motions filed during that. As a synopsis, the first agenda item was snow removal for, sidewalk repairs, which had been on the agenda for several months, so it wasn't very timely going into winter, but there were a lot of questions asked by the council, hopefully for next year. One of the primary concerns brought up initially by Councilor Melville was if DPS had a system or a way to streamline and make sidewalk repairs more effective throughout the city. Most councils seem to agree with Councilor Melville on that. I guess it was more of a question than a suggestion, Councilor. Mr. Labossiere, through discussion, had stated that he would like to stick to an existing list and follow Councilor Melville's lead on that for several reasons, contracting, similar to what we do with streets. But sometimes with council motions for sidewalk repairs and mayoral requests, that becomes impossible. And there is, in fact, a list which doesn't seem to be followed very much for those exact reasons due to requests that come in last minute from councilors and the mayor. So that's something hopefully Mr. Labossiere can address through next year to follow the request or the question from Councilor Melville to streamline and come up with a better system for sidewalk repairs. The second question, or the second issue under this, Mr. Labossiere for DPS, was snow removal. Every councilor asked questions with regards to snow removal, as that's the impending issue coming forward. Mr. Labossiere addressed questions from councilors about outside contractors. We are looking good for the hiring of outside contractors. Many of our contractors from last year returned, and they have several new ones to fill the voids. He also, Mr. Labosiere also addressed new hires. There is one currently new hire working that transferred from another city, and one or two more that are scheduled to be hired in the upcoming weeks. Mr. Labosiere also mentioned a new method of snow removal that they're going to experiment with this year for sidewalk snow removal, whereas the DPS will start in school areas and more densely populated areas and work out to less traveled areas throughout the city in order to address the problem issues first. Councilor McGinn spoke on that idea and supported it. I think particularly, I don't mean to speak for him, that since the downtown is greatly affected by snow. New equipment orders were mentioned. There's an 18-month backlog on the 2 new trucks that the council approved in the capital budgets not too long ago, so we won't see those trucks during this winter. Council Manning Martin had asked a question about the supply and demand of plow drivers on a recent article that she had read, I believe, today, where there was an increased cost of doing business with outside contractors due to the shortage of drivers. Mr. Labosiere said he doesn't necessarily anticipate a problem, but he won't know that until the number of snow events that come forward may affect that, and he has agreed to come back to the council and let us know if he is well over budget due to that, those costs. The second motion on the agenda was from Council Manning Martin regarding the emptying of park barrels and how that relates to the rodent problem. I think she just wanted to get an answer on how the frequency of trash removal in the parks. Jen Davis from Parks and Recreation was here to address that. She stated that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday were the scheduled days for trash removal from the parks and bike trails. Tuesday and Thursdays were used as spare days in the event they couldn't get to them on the prior days. She mentioned that there is one trash truck that's used by both DPS and Parks and Recreation, as the second trash truck is down and unrepairable. She also mentioned that she has 3 employees for the Parks and Parks and Forestry departments, with 1 summer intern this year, and it was very difficult to maintain all the barrels throughout the city. Ms. Davis also mentioned that we're still using 55-gallon drums, which are sometimes conducive for residents to empty their household waste in, and she would like to use newer barrels with a more of a covered top that prevents large bags from being disposed of in those barrels. But the approximate cost to replace all the barrels under Parks control would be about $30,000. It's a discussion that we could have as we get closer to budget season. Councilor Charest mentioned the possible use of dumpsters in heavily used park areas. Ms. Davis was okay with that idea, or will look at that idea in some of the more heavily used parks, but also had the same fear of household refuse being dumped in those dumpsters. Council Manning Martin recommended a trash button similar to our pothole button and our storm drain reporter that are on the city website. She asked for opinions from other councils due to time. I don't think we heard many other opinions. I will say that I like the idea. I think it only makes sense, and also Mayor Betancourt did stand up and mention that he also liked the idea, so hopefully it's implemented by City Hall. And lastly, Councilor Welton mentioned the purchase of possible big belly barrels. For those of you that don't know what those are, they're just larger trash compacting barrels that are lockable, and they compact the trash, therefore lessening the frequency of removal that's needed. They are very expensive, but Ms. Davis said she had not looked at that in several years and would reinvestigate that. And that's the report of committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Turco, for that report of progress. We'll now move to Chairman McGinn for his report for the Finance Committee. Chairman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met earlier this evening. Present for the committee were Councilors Gould, Manning Martin, Rosignol, Turco, and myself as chair. All other councilors were present. We took the agenda out of order. The first item we considered was a bond order for the Welsh School renovation project, $29,973,821. This was presented to us by His Honor the Mayor. Also present to present the bond order were Superintendent Dr. Vidala, School Committee member and Chair of the Welsh School Building Committee, Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn. Also, our owner's project manager, representatives from Durham Whittier, representatives from the design company, Donesco Design, and the construction company, representatives from Consigli. This is a major renovation to the Welsh School, very important project for the city and for Ward 2. The project includes new HVAC systems, new windows, new furnishings, and the latest in equipment and technology to reconfigure the educational space. It should add minimally 50 years of useful life to the building. Questions dealt in a couple of areas. One was focused on the reimbursement percentage, which is 63.33% from the MSBA. That's a very favorable percentage and up from what we had seen in prior projects, notably with the middle school. Partially that is due to the fact with changes in the MSBA formulas, but also due to the fact that this project will be LEED Silver certified, which is a big accomplishment and tough to pull off in a renovation project. Other questions dealt with the phasing of the project and how students would be moved around while the building is occupied through the renovation. Dr. Vidala explained how that would happen, how students would be moved between schools, and that this has already been addressed with all the families. Councilor Melville spoke from his firsthand involvement in the project as a member of the Welsh School Building Committee, and spoke to the quality of the project and the professionalism of the team that's been assembled. I'm also a member of that Welsh School Building Committee, and I fully agree with Councilor Melville's comments and observations relative to the process to date. With that, a motion was made by Councilor Rosignol, which was a co-motion with myself as the chair of the Finance Committee, but also the Ward 2 councilor in which this building is located. And the motion was as follows. Peabody City Council, City of Peabody, Massachusetts, bond order for the Welsh School improvements be it ordered by the City Council of the City of Peabody that the City of Peabody appropriate the amount of $29,973,821 for the purpose of paying the costs of the addition and renovation project to the William A. Welsh School located at 50 Swampscott Avenue, Peabody, Mass., including including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, and for which school facility shall have an anticipated useful life as an educational facility for the instruction of school children for at least 50 years, and for which the City of Peabody may be eligible for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA, said amount to be expended under the direction of the City of Peabody Welsh School Building Committee. To meet this appropriation, City Treasurer is authorized to borrow said amount under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, that any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs in a like amount. The City of Peabody acknowledges the MSBA grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need, as determined by the MSBA, and any project costs the City of Peabody incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the City of Peabody, provided further that any grant of the City of Peabody may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not exceed the lesser of 163.33% or of the approved project cost as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, and that the amount of borrowing authorized pursuant to the vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the project funding agreement that may be executed between the City of Peabody and the MSBA, and that this order be adopted and advertised as read. Mr. President, that motion passed the Finance Committee unanimously 5-0, and I now bring it to consideration of the full council. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion for Finance Chairman McGinn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Chairman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next item on the agenda was the transfer of funds, CPC Riverwalk Canal Wall project in amount of $359,950. This was presented by the Finance Director, Mr. Gingras, and it is a project that has been approved by the Community Preservation Committee. A motion was made by Councilor Gould as follows. Move to approve transfer from account number 270000330021, CPC Open Space, an amount of $359,950, to account number 270-1811-585-62-2022-000388, CPC Riverwalk Canal Wall, an amount of $359,950. Mr. President, that motion by Councilor Gould passed unanimously, and I now bring it for consideration to the full council. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion for Finance Chairman McGinn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilor Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Chairman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next item on the agenda was a transfer of funds, Community Preservation Act, Spikeway Independence Greenway Extension Project, $113,794.75. This was presented to the committee by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. This is the second part of a funding that happened over a 2 fiscal year period. So this will complete the funding for the project. The motion was made by Councilor Gould as follows. Move to approve transfer of funds from account number 270-0000330021, CPC Open Space Fund Balance, $113,794.75, to account number 270-1811-585-62-2018, 000350, CPC Bikeway Independence Greenway Extension Project in the amount of $113,794.75. Mr. President, that motion passed the Finance Committee unanimously, vote of 5-0, and I now bring it to the full council for consideration. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion from Finance Chairman McGinn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Chairman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next item on the agenda was transfer of funds, Community Preservation Act Administration, amount of $10,000. This was presented to us by the Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. This is an annual transfer that is made to cover administrative costs For the CPC, a motion was made by Councilor Gould as follows. Move to approve transfer from account number 270-000-33011, Community Preservation Act unreserved fund balance, an amount of $10,000, to account number 270-000-33024, Community Preservation Act administration, amount of $10,000. That motion passed unanimously, Mr. President, in committee. I now bring it for consideration to the full council. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion from Finance Chairman McGinn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Minnie Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Chairman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next item on the agenda was Transfer Fund Community Preservation Act Open Space, an amount of $300,000. This was presented to us by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. This is a transfer that was required to cover some previously approved projects, and a motion was made by Councilor Gould as follows. Move to approve transfer of funds, account number 270-000-33011, Community Preservation Act unreserved fund balance, an amount of $300,000, to account number 270-000-33021, Community Preservation Act open space, amount of $300,000. Mr. President, that motion passed the Finance Committee unanimously. And now bring it to the full council for consideration. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion from Finance Chairman McGinn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Minnie Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Chairman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next item on the agenda was transfer funds various. These are again presented to us by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras, and deal with the statutory required transfers that are done annually from the unreserved fund to the various accounts in the CPC, as well as some additional set-asides that the City of Peabody does on an annual basis. Motion was made as follows by Councilor Gould. Move to approve transfer of funds from account number 270-000-33011, Community Preservation Funds unreserved, an amount of $447,083.64 to the following three accounts. Account number 270-000-33022, Historic Preservation Reserve Fund, $149,027.88. Account number 270-000-33023, Community Housing Reserve Fund, $149,027.88. Account number 270-000-33021, Open Space Reservation Fund, the amount of $149,027.88. Additionally, move to approve transfer funds from account number 270-000-33011, Community Preservation Fund unreserved, an amount of $223,541.82 to the following three accounts. Account number 270-000-33021, Open Space Reserve Fund, an amount of $149,027.88. Account number 270-000-33022, Historic Preservation Reserve Fund, $39,256.97. And account number 270-000-33023, Community Housing Reserve Fund, $37,256.97. Mr. President, that motion passed the Finance Committee unanimously. I now bring it to the full council for consideration. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion from Finance Chairman McGinn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Minnie Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Chairman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. That completes the report of committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Finance Chairman McGinn. We'll now move to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Gould. Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 7A, transfer of funds and refer to finance. So moved.
On the motion, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Manning Martin. Yes. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, co-motion with Councilor Mitsoulas to receive item 9A, entertainment license renewal for 2021 for the Portuguese American War Veterans, Post 1, 103 Tremont Street, all papers being in order. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manning Martin.
No further motions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilor Sasslaw.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Under suspension of rules, motion to receive item 8E and approve the transfer, all papers being in order.
Councilor, you've heard the motion from Councilor Sasslaw. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Sasslaw.
No further motions, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8F.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Welton.
No further motions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor Trice.
Thank you, Chairman. Under suspension of rules, move to accept item 9B and set up hearing, if necessary. So move.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton. Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Trice.
Thank you. Under suspension of the rules, move to accept item 8D, set up a hearing. So move.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Trice.
And also a request from the Rec Department on the status of the Bob Driscoll skating rink and where that is sitting of renovation. So move.
Councilor, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Trice.
Thank you. And just a point of information, my city email has been deleted Until I can get that up and going again, if any constituents is trying to reach me and knows that it's been a little bit, say 2 days, that I haven't responded, is because I am not able to retrieve any emails that's coming to me through the city email. So if they have, if they could give me a call, let me know what their concerns are until I can figure out what's going on and get this email up and going again. So not just a point of order. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C, so moved.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. The suspension of the rules, move to receive item 10A and adopt as advertised, so moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 10B and adopt as advertised, so moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Mitsoulas?
I have no motions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Mitsoulas. Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, first motion would be a co-motion with you, Mr. President, to have DPS go out and clean the 4 storm drains at the corners of Clifton Circle and Winona Street. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to make a motion to refer the issue of right turn on reds to the Public Safety Subcommittee, and when that can be scheduled, whether before or after the new year. I'd like to have somebody from the City Planning Department, and whether it be somebody from the Traffic Control Division. I heard the issue come up during the election season this year from candidates as well as elected officials, and I just don't want it to get lost in the shuffle, so I'd like to make that motion to put that in legal affairs, public safety now. So moved.
Councilor Turco, clarification, just to make sure, should it go to Municipal Safety Committee? I'm just trying to make sure I've got the right committee.
Okay, I was referring to it as public safety. Well, municipal safety is the accurate name, yes.
To make sure, okay, you've heard the motion, but on the motion, Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Turco, good job. You might want to invite Representative Walsh, who he's done a lot of work on Right on Red, and apparently I didn't know this until when Rep. Walsh let me know that it is a state issue. So inviting him may help inform us and maybe come to a quicker resolution, too.
Thank you very much, Council, for the reminder. Actually, Representative Walsh was the first one to mention the issue to me, so I appreciate the reminder. I would have forgot him. If you could invite Representative Walsh also.
Thank you, Councilor Gould, for that important. On the motion, Councilor Charest?
Yeah, to the point. I had asked a while back for Councilor Representative Walsh to come in front of us and give us an update on the Andover Street there, the traffic, the lights and everything else. Maybe that can be done on the same night, Councilor Turco.
Okay, is that still in committee, Mrs. Clerk, Madam Clerk? Okay, that's still in subcommittee, so whoever the chair is can bring that forward then. I thank you. And the last thing I wanted to mention was...
Council, we got to do a roll call vote on that.
My apologies.
Yeah, sorry. Council, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilor School.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last thing I just wanted to mention, sometimes, you get a feel-good moment, and on election night, I received a phone call from a Mr. Dahlhauser that lives off of Veteran Memorial Drive, and he was actually calling, inquiring about a bus stop that used to be out in front of Tilly Farm that's no longer there, that I'm trying to find out why that's not there. But the reason for his call, other than that, was to say thank you to Officer Fitzgerald, who assisted him in getting home from the polls that evening, as he's an older gentleman that needed some help. So I just wanted to mention a thanks to Officer Fitzgerald. It was, just a good phone call to get on a long night. So that's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. No motions this evening.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Melville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we have item 8H. And did you want to make a comment on that, Mr. President?
Thank you, Councilor Melville. I'll be brief, but just want to mention that regarding item communication 8H, it stemmed from two Boston University students reaching out to me early this spring. They're both members of the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative at their school. And the two students are Alana Madura and Caitlin Leonard. And Caitlin Leonard's a Ward 6 resident. And the whole initiative and what their organization that they're part of is just trying to raise awareness about lung cancer, and especially lung cancer screening, knowing that it actually is the leading cause of cancer deaths of cancers. And once again, this is just a proposed proclamation to declare Peabody November 2021 as a lung cancer, proper phraseology, I have to get it in front of me, is that it's the reminder for Peabody's proclamation is the lung cancer screening initiative this month. And from a personal perspective, we lost both of our parents to lung cancer, and I'm in full support. We can have our residents push for screening for lung cancer, because it's certainly proven by facts that if they go and get screened, there's a far less chance of them dying from this dreaded disease. So thank you for allowing me those comments, Council Mello. If you would, I'd like to see if you make the motion for this proclamation, which is item 8H.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would make the motion to approve the proclamation on behalf of the Peabody City Council. The proclamation is whereas lung cancer is the leading cause of death by cancer among men and women in the United States in Essex County in 2021, accounting for more deaths than colon cancer, breast cancer, and prostate cancer combined. Whereas according to the Centers for Disease Control, there were 3,011 new lung cancer cases and 1,819 deaths because of lung cancer between 2013 and 2017 in Essex County. Whereas the 5-year survival rate for localized lung cancer is approximately 59%, yet only roughly 17% of lung cancers are diagnosed at this stage, whereas screening for lung cancer for high-risk individuals using low-dose computed tomography can lead to the early detection of lung cancer and save lives, reducing the mortality by 20% when compared to screening by chest X-ray in the National Lung Screening Trial, and reducing the risk of death at 10 years by 24% in men and 33% in women, as demonstrated by another large randomized trial. Whereas funding for lung cancer research trials trails far behind funding for research of many other cancers, and additional research is needed in the early diagnosis, screening, and treatment for lung cancer, as well as in lung cancer affecting women, lung cancer health disparities. Whereas lung cancer incidence is decreasing twice as fast in men as it is in women. Each year, more women die from lung cancer than breast cancer, and by 2035, more women will die from lung cancer than men. Whereas African Americans have the highest lung cancer incidences and mortality of all races and disparities in lung cancer screening, diagnosis, treatment, and mortality, as well as characterized among African American and other racial minorities, whereas lung cancer is never smokers is the 7th leading cause of cancer-related death and accounts for 17,000 to 26,000 deaths in the U.S. every year. 60 to 70% of never smokers diagnosed with lung cancer are women, and the proportion of lung cancers diagnosed as never smokers is increasing in the U.S. Whereas organizations working in Peabody communities such as American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative and Women's Lung Cancer Forum are committed to educating about lung cancer and lung cancer screening and working to increase lung cancer screening rates in the city of Peabody. Therefore, the Peabody City Council does hereby proclaim November 2021 as Lung Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Peabody and recognize that the need for research on lung cancer affecting women and lung cancer health disparities and encourage all citizens to learn more about lung cancer and early detection through lung cancer screening. So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Melville. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Melville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to receive, under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8B. It's a letter from a resident regarding Officer Long and his helpfulness to a resident from Georgetown who had an accident in the city of Peabody. I can speak, I've known Andy Long my entire life, great guy, and this is it's a really nice letter, and I think we should forward, on behalf of the whole council, thank him. Thank you, so moved, Mr. Mayor.
Council, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Mr. President, move to receive, under suspension of the rules, move to receive both items 7B and 8A. They appear to be the same content. Mr. President, so moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton. Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Council Melville.
Is,
G.
move to receive item 8G, under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8G, Mr. President.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton. Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lastly, just on Thursday, there will be a Veterans Day ceremony here at City Hall, Thursday at 11 a.m. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing else.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. I just want to have a reminder to all councils and any viewers that we'll have our second meeting for November. It'll be held next Tuesday evening, which we will not have it for Thursday because of Veterans Day. And I certainly want to, make sure we recognize the veterans in our community, in our nation, and I want to take a personal moment and recognize fellow councilors Jim Mitsoulas and Ryan Melvin, who served our country. Thank you both. Lastly, I want to take a moment and just recognize the 65th wedding anniversary of Joe and Marge Jerome, who live on Worcester Road. They've been lifelong friends of the O'Neill family, and may their love for each other remain eternal. At this time, I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Councilor Gould.
Can you please clarify when our next council meeting is? Did you say next Tuesday?
It'll be next Tuesday, November 16th.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? Oh, actually, got to do a roll call vote, sorry. On the motion, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
We are now adjourned.